my deal is this videotape, this anti-Islamic videotape that the president went out, the Secretary of State went out, the UN Ambassador Susan Rice went out, and they blamed the attack on our Benghazi embassy on a reaction to this videotape, and that's never been proven true. And yesterday, Mr. Obama was asked about Susan Rice going out and saying this was a videotape reaction, and all he said was that it was kind of surreal or bizarre the way he was answering this, as if he were the White House press secretary. He said, well, she was acting on the best information that she had at the time provided by the White House. Well, Mr. President, guess what? You're the White House. You can answer this for us right now. Where did this concocted story about a videotape come up? And I haven't heard anybody explain that yet. But do you have any? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think it's been proven unequivocally that it was not a result of the obscure videotape made in California there. I think they've already concluded that was not the case. And I think he actually said she was sent by the White House. And I think he also alluded to the fact that her information came from the CIA. Now, that is another example of how this administration has routinely thrown the CIA and the intelligence community under the bus. But listen, Tim, this was not a result of that. We know that. There was no mob there that got out of control. This was a planned, coordinated, and very well executed military attack to it wasn't on the embassy, it was on the consulate there in Benghazi. And so we know that they had a reason for going into there and attacking our embassy staff there, whether it was specifically to kill the ambassador or whether it was to capture him and those with him. We don't know those details yet, but we know that this was planned, coordinated, and very well executed.
But why would the White House, what would be the, I know you're speculating here, but what would be the motivation for the White House to intentionally deceive the American people about that this wasn't an Al-Qaeda type terrorist attack on September the 11th? Hello. It was rather people got all ticked off about this movie and they just marched over there and started setting the place on fire. But what would be the motivation? Why don't you just tell people we were attacked by a terrorist group?
Well, I think that there's a couple of reasons. One is that the administration has made a big issue of the fact that Al-Qaeda's on the ropes, that we've essentially won the war on terror, and it was won when we killed bin Laden, and nothing could be further from the truth. So it degrades the message that the White House is trying to get out, that we've won the war on terror, we've destroyed Al-Qaeda, and that they're no longer a threat to the United States. So that's one reason. I think the other reason was, I think there were some things going on there that they did not want discovered. I think that there was probably, and there is a lot of evidence to this effect, there was probably a covert action program being run out of the Benghazi consulate there to supply arms and material to the Syrian rebels through Turkey. There has come out a lot of information recently about that. So that may have been part of what they were trying to suppress there. Why was the ambassador there? You know, Tim, you made a good point. The day before this occurred, the head of Al-Qaeda now, Ayman al-Zawahiri, released a video acknowledging that we had killed Abu Yahya al-Libi, the number 2 man in Al-Qaeda, and calling for revenge against the Americans. So it should have been quite obvious that in a place like Benghazi in particular, where we know Al-Qaeda has training camps, that there was going to be a problem on 9/11. So there are just a lot of questions that have to be answered here, Tim.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more questions that are going to come up as a result of this investigation and the hearings that are taking place on Capitol Hill. One in particular, I know we're going to let you go. We got Congressman Langford joining us. But over the weekend on Sunday's Meet the Press, Doris Goodwin said that, you know, related to General Petraeus, we've been talking about the Benghazi, and of course he's now resigned as a result of the investigation that led to uncovering an affair he had. But Doris Goodwin said that, you know, really excusing affairs is the only way to get the best people in public life. And she goes on to list FDR and Clinton, that these minor indiscretions kind of derailed them. And if we would just put those things aside, we could have had good people in government. And I'm just wondering if, as a result, as we're seeing more and more layers of this, in general, I think we've seen really a rash of not just, General Petraeus, but there's been other generals and general officers that have had to face the consequences of these indiscretions. If it's not just their oath of marriage that they've violated, but if we're not going to see where they've actually defrauded voters in some ways, or the citizens of this country, by behavior that was inappropriate.
Tony, I think that it comes down to an issue of whether character matters, and I personally hold a very traditional view on that, and I think character does matter. And I think if a person would take essentially an oath, a covenant oath with their spouse, and then violate that, I think we have every reason to believe that they would lie to us as the American public. They would do things that I think would be not in the best interest of those that they serve, and that's their constituents, the people of this nation. So I think character does matter, and I think that one of the things that we ought to be striving for here in our nation is to restore the concept of character in our leadership, because there's been a real failure at many levels in that regard.
Hey, I have one more question. General, have you ever heard a president call out two U.S. senators like Obama did, Lindsey Graham and John McCain yesterday?
I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a president scold the Supreme Court at a State of the Union. I've never seen a president appear on The View, and there are a lot of things here that are first for this country.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday, President Obama basically was basically challenging John McCain and Lindsey Graham to a fight. Let's take it outside.
He said, let's go out. He started rolling up his sleeves. Let's go out back.
Let's get it. They want to take on me. Let's get it on. That's basically
he is unconstrained now, and I think he's governing now with a boldness and a carefree attitude that we hadn't seen in the previous 4 years.
Yeah. General Jerry Boykin, our guest. Thank you, General. Appreciate your time.
Glad to be with you.
All right.
Have you ever seen that before? I can't remember. I haven't watched all presidential press conferences, obviously, but I just don't ever remember a president.
It kind of reminded me of Jesse Ventura. Just say, hey, let's step out here in the ring.
Yeah. So he basically said, President Obama basically said yesterday, Senator McCain and Senator Graham want a piece of me. We can do it. I'll give them that. I mean, it was really weird.
I found it interesting that in the press conference yesterday, he did say that Susan Rice was sent out with the information from the White House.
Yes, it's
interesting that, speaking on a national security issue, they sent the U.S. ambassador to the UN, not the director of security or the CIA or the State Department. They sent. I just found that curious, and then he, repeatedly said it was information given by the White House. And I think to your point, did they give her false information and or not full information?
The president's acting like he's the press secretary. The White House game. Well, you're the White House. You gave her the information, or somebody at your office in the White House did tell us what it was and who gave it to her. The other thing was I noticed the sort of the bravado, like. Those men want to take on this little woman over here. That's mean. Pick on a lady like that. You can pick on me. I'm a man. I mean, that's what it sounded like.
But that's kind of the narrative from the campaign that I think continues to carry over.
Right.
Well, let's introduce our next guest, Congressman James Lankford from the 5th Congressional District of the state of Oklahoma.